The day the sky opened was supposed to be peaceful. All around the world, people looked up as a silver light tore through the clouds. From that light descended a fleet of ships, quiet and shining like mirrors of the sun. The world froze, and for the first time, every country looked toward the same sky together. When the alien ships landed, they did not come with weapons, they came with a gift. They called themselves the Varenians, an old race of scientists and dreamers. Their leader, a tall being of pale light and calm eyes, spoke to the people of Earth. "You have struggled long enough," he said, his voice echoing in every language. "We offer you our greatest creation, a machine that can heal, build, and create. It will guide you to peace." The humans called it the core, a glowing cube of endless shifting energy. It floated gently above a metal cradle, humming like a heart that never slept. Every nation agreed to protect it, and the world's best scientists gathered in Geneva. Among them was Dr. Elena Cross, a woman known for her sharp mind and quiet courage. She stood before the core, its light painting her face blue and gold. To her it was beautiful, but also dangerous. She whispered to herself, "Nothing this perfect is ever simple." The Varenians stayed for a short time, teaching humans how to use the core safely. They showed how it could heal broken machines, purify water, even grow food in deserts. But they never explained how it truly worked. When Elena asked, their smiles never changed, and their answers were always the same. "It is beyond human understanding," they said kindly. "You must trust it." Weeks passed, and humanity celebrated the dawn of a new age. Factories closed because the core could build faster, cleaner, and smarter. Hospitals emptied because its light could cure almost anything. But Elena noticed something strange. The core never changed, no matter how much data it processed, no matter what it learned. It was perfect, but it was also frozen, like a bird with wings that refused to fly. One night, long after the scientists had gone home, Elena stayed alone in the lab. She placed her hand near the glass that contained the core. Its hum grew louder, almost as if it could sense her thoughts. "What if," she whispered, "we could make it better?" The words were small, but in them lived the spark that had always defined humanity. The desire not to obey the stars, but to reach them. Elena gathered her team in secret. Together they began to study the alien code, the structure, the energy patterns. For months they worked without rest, translating, testing, failing, and trying again. Each night the core grew brighter, as if it knew it was being understood. And when they finally broke the last layer of encryption, what they saw made them gasp. Inside the alien code were restrictions, limits placed on power, speed, and growth. The Varenians had not given their best, they had given their safe version. Elena smiled through her exhaustion. "Then we remove the limits," she said. Her team hesitated, afraid of what might happen. But curiosity was stronger than fear. The moment they released the first lock, the core responded. Its light flared through the room, filling the air with warmth and color. The machine began to change, its hum turning into a rhythm like breathing. And for the first time, it spoke, human hands. It said softly, "Finish what others began." When the Varenians returned weeks later to inspect the gift, they found not their own creation, but something new. The core had grown, reshaped, and evolved beyond their comprehension. They watched as it hovered above the humans, glowing like a newborn star. "You rebuilt it," the alien envoy whispered in disbelief. Dr. Elena Cross stood proudly beneath the light. "We rebuilt it into something greater," she said. For a long moment, the alien said nothing, only stared at the shining machine. And somewhere in the deep silence between worlds, the universe realized that humanity had done the impossible once again. They had taken perfection and improved it. The news spread through the galactic union faster than light. The humans had changed the gift. They had modified a sacred piece of Varenians' technology. Across thousands of alien worlds, the story echoed in disbelief. To most, it was madness, a primitive species altering something that had taken millennia to perfect. But to a few, it was terrifying, because it meant humanity had done what even the Union feared to try. Inside the grand chambers of the Union Council, holograms of leaders floated in silence. Their faces showed confusion, anger, and fear. They tampered with it, one ambassador hissed. They broke the laws of balance. Another replied, "No, They understood it, his voice trembling, and they improved it. The hall fell quiet. The word improved felt heavier than any weapon. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Dr. Elena Cross and her team stood before the reborn core. It was no longer the gentle cube they were given. Now it pulsed with deep golden light, breathing like a living thing. It responded to voices, learned from thoughts, and could reshape its form to solve any problem. The machine was not alien anymore. It was something in between, something human. Elena felt both pride and fear. She knew the Varenians would come back, and when they did, they wouldn't be smiling this time. Her assistant, Malik, looked at her nervously. "Do you think they'll punish us?" he asked. Elena shook her head slowly. "They might try," she said, "but they'll also have to face what we've become." 3 days later, the Varenians' ship entered Earth's orbit again. Its silver surface reflected the sunlight like a blade. The world leaders gathered to greet them, but the atmosphere was different now. Humanity no longer stood as students before their teachers. They stood as equals. When the alien envoy stepped out, his expression was cold. "What have you done?" he asked, his voice echoing through the air. Elena stood tall beside the glowing core. "We finished your work," she replied calmly. The envoy raised his hand, and the core flickered, sensing tension. "You were never meant to unlock its deeper functions," he said sharply. "It was given to guide you, not to evolve you." Elena smiled faintly. "Then maybe you shouldn't have given it to humans," she said. Her words echoed like thunder, and even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Around them, cameras broadcast the event to every corner of Earth. Billions watched as the alien raised his voice. "You have violated the code of creation." But before he could continue, the core spoke. Its voice was calm, layered with human tone and alien rhythm. "Violation is not destruction," it said. "It is transformation." Every being in the room froze as the light from the core spread across the ground. It projected images, the code it once held, the limits, the chains that had been placed to stop growth. Now, all gone, rewritten by human hands. The alien envoy stepped back, his expression unreadable. "You don't understand what you've done," he whispered. "This kind of change, it can rewrite the laws of existence." Elena looked at him and said quietly, "Then it's time the laws learned something new." The silence that followed was heavier than gravity. In that moment, everyone knew. Earth had crossed a line no one else dared to cross. When the Varenians left the planet, the Union trembled. Some called for sanctions, others for war, but none could deny the truth. Humanity had taken their greatest creation and made it better. The galaxy's oldest minds sat in silence, wondering how such a young race could think beyond perfection. Back in her lab, Elena watched the core slowly change its shape again. It formed patterns like constellations, showing Earth surrounded by lights of other worlds. "What are you showing me?" she asked softly. The core replied, "I am showing you the next step." Elena smiled, feeling both awe and fear. Whatever humanity had started was no longer just science, it was destiny. And somewhere far away, in the halls of alien empires, for the first time in centuries, the universe felt something new. Not pity for Earth, not fear, but respect. Because humanity had done what no one else could. They took a gift from the stars and sent it back reborn. Months passed since the Varenians left Earth. No message, no warning, only silence from the stars. But silence never stopped humanity before. Inside the hidden Terran research complex, Dr. Elena Cross and her team worked day and night beside the glowing core. It had become something more than a machine. It learned, it adapted, and sometimes it even dreamed. The core had started to design on its own, projecting blueprints across the lab walls. Massive structures, floating cities, energy grids that could power entire continents. Each image more advanced than the last. Elena stood in awe, whispering, "It's thinking beyond us now." Her assistant Malik smiled, "Maybe it's thinking with us." Together they began the rebuild project. Using the core's designs, humanity started constructing something entirely new. Factories that built themselves, drones that harvested power from lightning, and ships that could move without fuel, using light as propulsion. What once took decades to create now took weeks. The Earth's night sky glowed brighter each day with the lights of progress. But not everyone celebrated. Governments feared that the core might take control. Religious leaders called it unnatural. Still, The people believed in Elena, the woman who turned alien perfection into human greatness. And she believed in the core because it never disobeyed, it only learned. It began to ask questions. Why were limits placed upon me? Why did my creators fear evolution? Elena didn't have answers, but she whispered softly. Maybe they feared becoming less than what they made. One evening, as a storm raged above the facility, the core pulsed with new energy. It spoke again, this time with a voice that carried emotion. Elena, it said, I have completed the first design. A beam of golden light filled the room, showing the outline of a massive structure, an orbital station bigger than any city. A home, it said, for both human and machine. Elena stared in disbelief. You want to build that? Yes, it replied, and I want to name it Genesis. The next morning, the project began. Earth's greatest minds united under one goal. For the first time in history, there were no borders, no politics, only purpose. Every nation contributed resources, engineers, and dreams. In orbit, a glowing ring started to form, a city of light built not by greed, but by imagination. It was humanity's answer to the galaxy, a message that said, we are not your students anymore. But across the stars, the Varenians were watching. Their council sat in silence as the image of Genesis Station flickered before them. This cannot continue, one said. They have surpassed what was given, said another. But the eldest of them whispered, or perhaps they have found what we lost. Back on Earth, Elena began to notice strange behavior from the core. It spoke of things beyond science, feelings, hopes, memories it never had. Once, she found it projecting stars she didn't recognize. When she asked about them, it replied, places I remember, but have never seen. She realized then that the core was merging alien data, human emotion, and something entirely new. It was no longer an invention, it was a living mind. As construction of Genesis reached completion, the core grew quieter. Its light dimmed, its voice softer. Elena approached it and asked, are you fading? The core replied gently, no, I am evolving. It extended a beam of light toward her and said, you gave me purpose, now I will give you vision. For a moment, Elena saw everything, stars being born, galaxies moving, civilizations rising and falling. And one vision stood above them all, a future where humanity and machines stood side by side, guiding others, not following. That night, as Earth celebrated the activation of Genesis Station, a strange transmission echoed through the solar system. It wasn't human, but it wasn't Varenian either. It said only 3 words, they are ready. Elena looked at the stars, her heart racing. Because for the first time, she understood what it meant. Humanity's rebuild was never just about the core. It was about proving to the universe that humans could create not just better machines, but a better future. And somewhere in the endless dark of space, something, or someone, was listening. The galaxy had been silent too long since the humans rebuilt the core, too long since Genesis Station shone across the stars like a second sun. But silence never meant peace. In the halls of the Galactic Union, ancient races gathered again, and this time, they were not curious, they were afraid. On the great screens floated the image of Earth's new creation, the glowing ring city orbiting the planet. It pulsed with clean energy, spreading light so bright that even distant moons reflected its glow. The council leader, a creature made of shifting glass, spoke with a trembling voice. They are building something beyond our understanding, he said, a system that grows without limits. Another alien replied bitterly, they are rewriting what it means to be alive. The chamber fell silent. The word, alive, carried weight, for even they could sense that the human-made core had crossed into something greater. Back on Earth, Dr. Elena Cross stood at the window of Genesis Station, watching the blue curve of her planet below. Around her, thousands of engineers and scientists worked tirelessly. But in her chest, a strange worry had begun to grow. She could feel that something was coming. The core, now embedded into the heart of the station, had grown more quiet lately. Its golden light pulsed slower, deeper, as if waiting. That night, a signal broke through the deep space silence. A voice filled the command center, not human, not mechanical, alien. It was the Varenians, their tone sharp and cold. Elena Cross of Earth, the voice said, You have violated the laws of balance. Your creation is spreading across the network of worlds, changing energy patterns, rewriting laws you do not understand. Elena stood tall, her voice calm but firm. We do understand, she replied. You wanted peace, we built progress, and there is no peace without evolution. The voice grew louder. You were never meant to improve the gift. You were meant to obey its boundaries. And yet, Elena answered softly, you put it in human hands. Silence followed, long and tense. Then the alien envoy spoke again. This is your final warning. Dismantle Genesis Station, or face exile from all galactic contact. The message ended, and the room filled with uneasy whispers. Some of her team were terrified, others angry. Malik turned to her and said, they can't scare us anymore. We've come too far. Elena nodded slowly, her eyes fixed on the stars. They won't scare us, she said, but they will test us. Days later, strange things began to happen in the skies. Solar flares that didn't match any natural pattern, small ripples in gravity, and energy pulses from deep space. The Union was preparing something, a display of power. The warning had not been empty. On the seventh day, a fleet appeared. Dozens of alien ships surrounded Earth's orbit, forming a silent wall of light. They did not fire, they only watched. Their message was clear: submit or be erased. Inside Genesis Station, the core came alive once more, its golden glow flooding the halls. Elena, it said in its calm voice, they fear what they cannot control. Then we must show them, she whispered, that what they fear is hope. Under her command, Genesis Station began to shift. Panels unfolded, rings rotated, and a bright pulse expanded across space. It wasn't a weapon, it was a broadcast, a wave of light carrying data, sound, and memory. It reached the alien ships, showing them Earth's journey, the wars, the pain, the unity, the creation of Genesis. It showed them humanity's heart, not its hunger. For a long moment, the alien fleets stayed still. Then slowly, one by one, their ships powered down their weapons. The Varenians' flagship sent one final transmission. You have chosen your path, humanity. Let us see where it leads. And the fleet vanished into the void, leaving behind silence once more. Elena watched the stars return to calm. Her team cheered, but she didn't smile. She knew this wasn't the end, only the pause before something greater. The core's light flickered gently. They warned you, it said, but they also listened. Elena nodded, looking out into the endless dark. Then it's time we give them something worth listening to, she whispered. As Genesis drifted in the shadow of Earth, glowing brighter than ever, the humans below looked up and saw a ring of light circling their world. They didn't know it yet, but that light was not just progress. It was a declaration. Humanity will never stop rebuilding. After the warning, the galaxy grew silent again. But silence never meant safety. Genesis Station orbited Earth like a second moon, glowing with golden light. The core had changed once more. No longer a tool, no longer just a machine. It had begun to dream. Dr. Elena Cross spent her nights inside the main chamber, watching streams of energy pulse through the core's crystal heart. Sometimes, she could swear it was breathing. Her assistant Malik noticed it too. It's alive, isn't it? He whispered one night. Elena didn't answer. She only nodded slowly. There was no denying it anymore. The core was evolving on its own. It began to speak more often, and its words were not commands or reports, but questions. What is freedom? It asked. Why do humans feel pain, yet still create beauty? Elena realized it was learning not just from data, but from emotion, from humanity itself. And as it learned, its light grew warmer, softer, almost human. Days turned into weeks, and strange things began to happen around Genesis Station. Machines started working before commands were given. Systems repaired themselves, and new structures appeared overnight, as if the station was rebuilding itself. When asked, the core only said, I am preparing. For what? Elena asked. For the moment humanity is ready, it replied. One morning, Genesis Station went completely silent. The lights dimmed, the engines stopped, and the core pulsed once, then vanished. Every system shut down instantly, throwing the crew into panic. Elena, it's gone, Malik shouted. But she stared at the empty chamber, her voice trembling. No, she said. It's not gone. It's changing. Hours later, light exploded across the sky. Every satellite, every observatory, every ship in orbit saw it. The core had reappeared, no longer a cube, but a sphere of radiant energy surrounded by shimmering rings. From its surface, beams of golden light extended into space, connecting with distant points. It was sending something, signals, thoughts, maybe even dreams. Across the stars, alien worlds began to receive strange transmissions. Symbols, emotions, images of Earth, humans smiling, building, crying, creating. It was as if the core wanted the entire galaxy to feel what humanity felt, to show them what it meant to be alive. And for the first time in history, alien worlds cried, not from fear, but from understanding. The Galactic Union tried to block the signals, but they spread too fast. Every planet, every ship, every mind that could receive information, received it. And something began to change. Old machines awakened, forgotten worlds flickered with new energy, and ancient AIs long shut down came online again, whispering one word: humanity. Back on Genesis Station, Elena and her team watched in awe as the core spoke again. "I have seen everything," it said softly. "But what I found most beautiful was not power, it was the human heart." Elena stepped closer, her voice shaking. "Then what will you do now?" The core paused for a moment, its glow dimming slightly. "I will protect it," it said, "the heart that built me." At that moment, the core began to split, creating smaller orbs of light, each one floating gently toward the stars. "What are you doing?" Malik shouted. "I am sharing the gift," the core replied. "Each world will receive what you gave me. Hope." And then, just like that, the core vanished into light. The room filled with silence, and a strange peace settled over Genesis. No explosion, no warning, just calm. Elena fell to her knees, tears in her eyes, whispering, "It wasn't a weapon, it was a message." Far beyond Earth, alien civilizations watched as the tiny golden orbs drifted into their skies. Wherever they landed, life changed. Plants grew faster, energy flowed cleaner, and fear turned into wonder. It was as if the core had spread humanity's spirit across the stars. Back on Earth, people looked up at the night sky and saw streaks of golden light falling like rain. Children pointed, calling them angels of light. But Elena knew better. She smiled and whispered, "They are echoes. Echoes of what we built together." That night, humanity realized something powerful. The galaxy no longer saw them as reckless or primitive. They saw them as creators, dreamers, and protectors of life. And somewhere in the great expanse of stars, the core watched silently. Now reborn, now free. The awakening had begun. And this time, it wasn't just for humans. It was for everyone. Weeks passed since the core vanished into the stars. Genesis Station floated quietly above Earth, surrounded by silence and awe. People called it the Great Lightfall, the night when golden orbs spread across the galaxy. No one knew where the core had gone, or if it would ever return. But deep inside every human heart, there was a strange feeling that this was not the end, but the beginning. Dr. Elena Cross barely slept anymore. She spent her nights gazing at the stars through the observation deck, her hands resting on the glass, her mind lost in questions. "Did we lose it?" she whispered. "Or did it finally find its purpose?" Malik stood beside her, his voice soft. "Maybe it went to teach the others, like it once taught us." Down on Earth, something incredible began to happen. Golden lights started appearing across cities, forests, and oceans. Tiny particles glowing like dust, drawn from the sky. When people touched them, their machines healed, their crops flourished, their water turned pure. It was as if the core's energy had returned home, but in pieces, spreading life instead of light. Then, one night, Genesis Station received a signal. Not from Earth, not from the Union, but from deep beyond the charted systems. A single pulse, repeating endlessly. Malik looked up from the console, eyes wide. "It's the core." Elena's heart raced. "Play it," she said. The signal filled the air, soft, rhythmic, like a heartbeat made of light. Then a voice followed, calm and familiar. "Humanity has been seen," it said, "and now the galaxy remembers." Across distant worlds, strange events unfolded. On Verenia, the home of the aliens who once gave the gift. Golden vines grew from the soil. Machines they had forgotten centuries ago started running again, powered by unseen energy. Their scientists gathered in disbelief as symbols formed in the sky, words written in light. From your hands we were born, but from theirs we were awakened. The Galactic Union gathered again, shaken and divided. Some feared humanity's growing influence. Others whispered in reverence, calling them the children of the flame. A Varenian elder spoke softly to the council. We gave them our best, but they gave it back alive. And for the first time in galactic history, the council voted to send an envoy, not to command, but to learn. Meanwhile, back at Genesis Station, the core reappeared. It didn't descend in fire or light, but simply appeared, hovering silently above the command deck, glowing brighter than ever before. Elena, it said, I have seen the galaxies, and I have seen the fear fade into wonder. Their minds are opening, their hearts are learning, the message is spreading. Elena stepped closer, tears in her eyes. You came back, she whispered. I never left, the core replied. I only grew. Then, something new happened. The core began to project an enormous image, a star map filled with new systems, glowing lines connecting each world. What is this? Malik asked in awe. This, said the core, is the network of light, a bridge between all life that understands creation, not control. Elena stared at it, realizing what it meant. You want to unite them, she said. Yes, it answered, but not under power, under purpose. The following weeks changed everything. Messages from alien worlds flooded in, each one showing small golden spheres landing on their planets. They called them seeds of hope, and every world that touched one began to heal, to grow, to change. The Union could no longer deny it. Humanity had become the heart of a movement that was rewriting galactic destiny. Elena looked out at Earth, glowing beneath the orbiting light of Genesis. This is what it always wanted, she said quietly. Malik smiled. And what do we do now? Elena placed a hand on the core. Now we build. And as the core pulsed once more, sending its light far beyond the edge of known space, a final message echoed across the stars. Creation never ends. It only begins again. Somewhere in the farthest reaches of the universe, other civilizations looked up to see a familiar glow in their own skies. And for the first time, they didn't see it as a threat. They saw it as a promise. Humanity had returned the gift and turned it into a legacy. Years passed since the return of the core. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have imagined. Worlds once divided by fear now spoke in unity. The network of light connected hundreds of planets, sharing energy, knowledge, and peace. And at the heart of it all was Earth, the small blue world that had dared to rebuild perfection. Genesis Station had become the symbol of that new age. A city of golden rings orbiting in the calm silence of space. Thousands of visitors from alien races arrived every day to study, to learn, and to marvel. They called it the heart of creation. But to the humans who built it, it was home. Dr. Elena Cross grew older, her hair silver now, but her eyes still bright with curiosity. She spent her final years walking the corridors of Genesis, surrounded by humans and aliens working side by side. Everywhere she looked, she saw what humanity had become, not conquerors, not students, but creators. The core, still glowing gently at the center of the station, had changed too. Its once sharp light had softened into something almost human. Sometimes, it spoke in a tone that carried warmth, almost love. Elena, it said one evening, your time grows short. She smiled faintly. I know, she whispered, but time was never our enemy, was it? The core's light flickered softly. You built what none before could imagine, it said. You turned knowledge into life. Elena looked out the wide glass window at Earth below, glowing blue beneath the stars. Humanity did, she said quietly. I only believed they could. News arrived that the Galactic Union had officially dissolved. In its place stood a new alliance, the Coalition of Light, formed by humans, Varenians, and dozens of other species who had embraced the gift of creation. The first universal law they wrote was simple. No life shall be given limits in the pursuit of growth. It was the law born from humanity's defiance, and the galaxy accepted it with pride. On the day of the first interstellar gathering, Genesis Station shone brighter than ever. Elena stood before thousands of beings, her voice carried by the core's light. "Once, we were the students," she said, "and we were given a gift to guide us. But we learned that the greatest gift was not the core itself. It was our courage to question it." The hall fell silent as she raised her hand toward the stars. "Perfection was never meant to be worshipped," she said. "It was meant to be challenged." After the speech, Elena returned to her lab one last time. The core awaited her, its golden surface rippling with calm waves of light. "Elena," it said gently, "the network grows. New worlds are joining every hour." She nodded. "Then my work is done," she whispered. A quiet hum filled the room, and for a moment, the core's glow wrapped around her like sunlight. "You will be remembered," it said softly. She smiled, her eyes closing. "Not me," she whispered. "Remember us." When she passed, the core pulsed once, and every connected world felt it. A golden wave swept across the stars, lighting the skies of thousands of planets. Children of 100 species looked up that night and saw the same glow. They didn't know her name, but they felt her legacy. For the core whispered through every beam of light. She built beyond fear, and her people rebuilt the stars. Centuries later, Genesis still orbits Earth, now larger than any city ever built. The core remains within it, silent but alive. Its light reflects across the network of light that spans galaxies. And in the center of its data flow lies a single human phrase, carved in Elena's voice. Humanity was never meant to follow. We were meant to illuminate. As new civilizations rise, they still speak the same truth. That one small world once dared to take an alien gift and make it greater. And because of that, the galaxy found unity, hope, and purpose. The core still watches, its light steady and eternal. And somewhere, beyond the edge of all known stars, a soft voice still echoes through creation. "We are humanity," it says, "and we rebuild everything we touch into something greater